All right, so good afternoon once again. Last week, we were able to discuss the second module in the introduction to robotics, the Arduino level 1, and I was able to discuss there the lessons from 8 to 12. Okay, one of them is actually the serial monitor. So, for today, tutuloy natin yung discussion natin and we will actually try to focus with the lessons 13 to 20. So I hope you were able to download your module number 3 in Arduino kasi nakalagay na rin dyan yung performance task natin and the written work number 3 natin. So for today, we will actually discuss 8 different lessons. Okay, so 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and the lesson 20. So for today, we will try to focus first ourselves with the lesson number 13 in the introduction to robotics. So lesson 13 is all about the different types of switches. Last week, we were able to discuss the basics of Arduino, especially the way on how we create a very simple diagram using this Tinkercad in yung tinatawag natin na Arduino IDE. So we also have here the Arduino IDE as a separate or as an alternative way for us to create our performance tasks. And yun nga, natuto rin tayo kung paano gumawa ng napaka-basic na traffic light using LED. So for today, let's talk about switches. Now, in terms of the switches, humans can be able to do their jobs because of energy, just like robots. So unlike humans, on the other hand, who get this energy from the food, robots gain energy from its power supply. So humans will also stop working when they get tired, and robots are not, on the other hand. Now, ang mga robot kasi, they have what we call the switches. That is very important in allowing and stopping it from working. Now, this part of robots connects and breaks the flow of electricity. Electronic switches are used to perform all logical functions. So, what we are targeting for this lesson is actually for us to identify the different types of switches. We will also be explaining the use of switch in a circuit, and at the same time, we will be drawing some schematic diagram of a circuit with what we call switches. Okay? So let's actually try to take a look at the following here and let's try to identify the following pictures kung ano nga ba sila. Ito. So this is an example of a switch, okay? This is a switch button. This is basically used to turn on and off the power supply. We also have here another switch button, okay? Diba? Mga yan. Nakikita nyo, di ba? Yan. Now, maybe you are asking, what's the purpose of switch in your circuit? Now, this is an example of a very, basic electronic circuit diagram. So we have here the switch, we have here the battery, we have here the light bulb. In the sense of Arduino, this will serve as our power source. Okay, this will also serve as a switch, and this will also serve as the LED. Now, the purpose of your switch in a circuit simply breaks the flow of electricity, causing the device to stop working or switch open and close a specific circuit. Say for example, ito, di ba? Yung light bulb mo, naka-on yan. Now, using switch, you can turn it off, you can turn it on. So basically, yung parang, alam natin, yung mga bumbilya natin, yung mga ilaw natin sa bahay, di ba? Kung walang switch yan, naka-on yan forever. Okay? Now, a switch is basically an electrical device having two states, on or off. Zero impedance when closed and infinite impedance when open. So zeros and 1 po ang magiging representation natin dito, where 0 is actually open and 1 is actually closed. In a field of, or in a sense of Arduino. Okay, zeros and ones natin yan. Now, we have different types of switches here. The first type of switch is actually the push button. Yung tact switch na tinatawag natin, yung pinakita ko kanina pinakauna. It reacts to user interaction with button or switch when it makes contact with the control panel beneath. Push button. Number 2, another type of switch here is a single pole, single throw switch, SPST. It's basic on and off switch consisting of one input contact and one output contact. Number 3 is the SPDT, the single pole double throw switch. It's actually a switch that has 3 terminals. One is input contact and the remaining 2 are output contacts. Single pole double throw po yan. Double pole double throw, or the DPDT, is actually a dual on or off switch consisting of 2 on positions. It has 6 terminals, to our input contacts, and the remaining 4 are the output contacts. And number 5, yan, toggle switch is manually actuated, push up or push down by a mechanical handle, lever, or rocking mechanisms. These are commonly used as light control switches. Ang gagamitin natin kasi for today is actually the push button and itong toggle switch natin. Pero sa kit ko kasi ang available lang is yung push button natin na type ng switch. Okay, so we have 5 different types of switch. Yan. Now, the toggle switch is actually used as a light control switch. And the Spst is a basic on or off or on and off switch consisting of one input contact and one output contact. Okay, so let's take a look at this one. Let's try to evaluate the picture here. What's the first picture and how about the second? The first picture is actually the heart and the second picture is actually a switch. What's the purpose of the heart in the body? Alam naman natin that heart simply pumps the blood for the body. And the purpose of a switch in a circuit connection, on the other hand, is simply switch allows or disallow the flow of electricity in a circuit. Now, question here, what do you think is the relationship between the two or their similarities? Ano nga ba ang similarities ni switch and the heart natin? Well, napaka-obvious, di ba? If the heart will stop pumping blood, of course, the body will die because the flow of blood for the body will stop. For the switch naman, the blood will, be compared to the electricity. If the switch will be turned off, the flow of the electricity will also stop. Diba? So, switches and the hearts are actually almost the same. They have similarities, both of them. They have the same function. Diba? Switch simply provide electricity. Diba? Heart simply pump blood for our body. Okay, so let's try to name the following switches here. Alin nga ba dito yung mga pinagbababanggit kong types ng switches natin? Number 1 is actually what we call the push button. Okay, this is the push button, yung tact switch na tinatawag natin. The tact switch na tinatawag. Ito, push button. Tandaan nyo yun ha. Number 2 is what we call the single pole, single throw switch. Ito, single pole, single throw switch. Yan, di ba? Single pole, single throw switch. Number 3, this is the double pole, double throw switch. Double pole, double throw switch. Number 4 is the toggle switch. Toggle. Okay, yung on-on, di ba? On-off yan. Number 5 is a single pole, double throw switch naman. So again, this is the push button. This is the single pole, single throw switch. This is the single pole, double throw switch. This is the toggle switch. Okay? And the single pole, double throw switches. Ito yan. Okay, so here are some more examples of switches na nakikita natin sa electronics. But then, for today, we'll only focus with what we call the push button. Kasi yun yung available sa Arduino kit natin, di ba? Ito, itong napaka-basic ng push button. But then, for as long as you know how the push button works, everything is actually almost the same. The functions. Yan. So, lesson 14 tayo. Now, let's take a look here at the lesson number 14. We will be working with what we call the push button switches. Now, our target here is for us to, to create a working schematics, di ba? Working schematics that uses a push button switch. Okay. Now, ang push button switch po kasi natin, by the way, FYI po, this is an if statement. Kapag gagawin kasi natin to or i-code natin to, it's an if statement. It allows you to choose between two discrete options, true or false. When there are more than two options, you can use multiple if statements, or you can just simply use the switch statement. Now, the switch allows you to choose between several discrete options. Ayan, di ba? Now, maybe you're asking, how does the switch button works? Ang switch button works, by the way, again, ulitin ko, it simply breaks or connect the circuit. Okay? And the if statement here in the program na gagawin natin, it basically will show that if you push a button, the LED will turn on, and while if not, the LED will turn off. Okay, now let's take a look at this very simple example here. Okay, napaka-basic lang naman nito no? Gawin natin dito yan sa sa Tinkercad natin para mas makita natin kung paano siya totally nag-work. Okay, so this is a very very basic and a very basic program that uses switch. So we have here the breadboard, we have here the Arduino Uno R3, we have here the push button or the switch, diba? We can just simply put that here, dito. And we have, of course, we have here this part here, the left side, the terminal 1A, nandito. The terminal 1A is where we will be placing our resistor. Let's try to rotate that dito. Diba? And alam naman natin na the resistor will actually be connected to the ground. So, ganyan siya. Diba? So, black. Nandiyan na siya. Next is for us to connect this one, the terminal 1A, into our, punta natin siya dito kay number 3. Ayan, pupunta natin siya dito kay number 3, di ba? Ayan, palitan natin yung kulay. So, gawin natin red. And lastly, itong part na to, the terminal 2A, this is where you will be connecting the wire to the 5 volts sa may Arduino natin. Ito. Sa may Arduino natin. Yun. Now, if you will try to code this one, gamitin ko na lang na pang-code itong ito, para mas madali nating maintindihan, no? So, you have here, initially, okay, you have here the void setup and the void loop, as we all know. Okay? Now, our target here is for us to simply create a program that will check the button input using serial monitor. So, first of all, let's try to declare a variable here. Yan. In PV value, ang i-store natin kay PV value is simply the value of button press and button on and button off. Now, for the setup, since nakalagay yan kay pin mode number 3, ayan, diba? Nakalagay yan kay pin mode number 3, gagawin natin siyang input. Take note, last week kasi ang create natin is all about output since LED na. Ngayon, since ang kinikreate natin is switches, that is an input. Okay? So, pin mode 3 is an input. And let's create here the serial monitor, the 9600 baud rate. Ayan. Serial.begin 9600. So, okay na, no? Na-set up na natin. For the loop, we will simply get the value of the digital read lang natin kung saan natin nilagay. So, nilagay natin siya kay pin number 3. Ayan, no? Kay pin number 3. Diba? And we will simply print here, print line, the value of PV value variable. So, let's try to upload that. Diba? So, kung i-upload natin yan dito sa my code natin, yan, upload natin yan, and let's start the simulation. Tinkercad actually has a serial monitor. Dito rin pala yan. Ayun o. May serial monitor tayo. So, let's click on the serial monitor and we will see that initially, the value is actually not being pressed. So, therefore, yung value na pinoproduce nito is 0. Pero take note, tingnan nyo pagka press ko siya, saka siya nag-output ng 1. Ayan na, di ba? Saka siya nag-output ng 1. So, pwede tayong gumawa dito ng if statement na if the PV value is actually equivalent to 1, therefore, di ba? Maglagay tayo dito ng serial.println button is pressed. Something like that, di ba? So, i-copy natin tong code na to sa may code natin. Ito. Let's copy. Let's stop the simulation. Yan. Paste natin yan dyan. And let's try to run the program. Ayan, nagkaroon lang tayo ng error dahil dito. Diba? Para lang siyang Java, no? Napakadali. Ayan. So, on natin. Ayan o. So, initially, hindi siya, ang tawag dito, nakalagay siya as button is press initially, di ba? So, pwede natin to kasing, pwede pa kasi natin tong i-work out ng mas maayos, di ba? Ano natin to, no? I-print muna natin si PV value natin. So, initially, alam natin na kapagka hindi siya nakapress, that is 0. Pero once na press natin, magiging, ano na siya, magiging 1 na siya. Diba? So, pwede natin yung ilagay dito as, if the PV value is actually 0, pwede natin tong ilagay. I mean, this one, dito. Yan. Andyan lang muna siya. Otherwise, maglagay tayo ng else dito. Yan. Maglagay tayo na dyan. Tingnan natin. Ayun, di ba? Nag-abnormal, no? Pag dito yan, nagagana yan, di ba? PV value is actually 0. Double natin yan. Ayun. Single equal lang kasing ginawa ko kanina. So, pindutin natin. Ayun. Nung pinindot natin si button, nag-press na siya dito. Diba? Ayun na. Diba? So, in a sense na kapag ginawa natin to sa may Arduino natin, let me turn on my camera. Okay? So, kapag sa may Arduino natin, this is actually what we call the push button. Ayan. It looks something like this, and it has 4 terminals. Diba? So, we have 4 different terminals here. And let's try to just simply recreate what we are seeing dito sa may, ano natin. Ayan. So, kabit natin. Medyo matigas lang ito, no? Sa may mga Arduino kit dyan, medyo matigas lang siya. Ayan. So, pwede na natin siyang maklik. Clickable po yan. Ayan. So, yung itong part na to, dito, napansin nyo, ito, nandito yung pin niya. Hindi lang makita. Ayan. Nandito yung pin niya. So, this pin here will be connected directly to the 5 volts ng Arduino natin. So, 5 volts. Ayan. And the other one is connected to the third pin sa Arduino board natin, 0, 1, 2, 3. Ayan. Diba? And we will place here a resistor. Kasi yung ilalagay natin kay ground. Ayan. Yun yung ilalagay natin kay ground, diba? So, we have here this one. And, kuha tayo dito ng black para ilagay natin siya kay ground. Ito. Lagay natin kay ground. Okay. Ganyan, no? And let's try to upload this. Ito yung code niyan. Ito yung code niyan. So, nagko-compile yung sketch natin. Ayan. Let's open our serial monitor. Ayan, di ba? So, 0 siya initially. Pero pagka pumindot tayo, ayan, ayusin ko lang ulit yung schematics natin kaya hindi nagpapakita. So, this is, ayan, kay 5 volts. Taka. This is on number 3. Ayan, 0, 1, 2, 3. Tapos ito, kay ground. Kabit natin ito kay ground ulit. Ayan. So, upload natin. Again, you can always use serial monitor, no? Para makita natin dito. Ba't di nagpapakita yung button press ko dito? Kasi talaga itong Arduino ko, ano, ayan. Pag dito gumagana, no? Anyways, bakit kaya? Pareho naman yung schematics natin. Talagang nagdolo ko talaga tong, may abnormal dito sa kit ko na to. Ayan. So basically, it's actually the same. Yung kit natin and yung, ito, yung schematics natin dito. Diba? Ayan. So it looks something like that. Okay? So, punta tayo dito ngayon sa assessment natin. The challenge here is actually for us to create a working, we have here 3 LED lights with 1 corresponding switch. Now, if the switch is pushed, the corresponding LEDs would light up. Paano nga kaya yan, no? That will serve as your assessment, by the way, yung performance check natin. Pero syempre, ito yun, no? Dito siya. Pero syempre, hindi ko papakita yung code. Especially yung nandito sa may module natin. Medyo iniba ko yung style ng problem natin. Yan. Create a circuit that would have 3 LED lights with 1 corresponding switch. If the switch is pushed, the corresponding LEDs would light up alternately for every push. Now, let me give you a clue here. Gawa tayo muna dito ng single. Ito munang ano natin. Ito munang schematics natin sa Tinkercad. Ayan, no? So, you have here a push button. Ayan. You have here a push button. And, of course, a resistor and an LED switch. So, on your end, sige, gayahin nyo muna ito. Importante magawa nyo ito. Kasi, ang performance check nyo is for you to create 3 LED switches. Pero dito, isang LED switch lang ang ginawa natin. Okay. So, burahin natin itong code natin. And let me explain how we can simply recreate this one. Pero i-simulate ko muna. Pakita ko muna sa inyo kung paano siya mag-work. So basically, once you click on the button here, ayun, magpapakita na nagsiswitch or nag-turn on si LED natin. Diba? So nag-turn on siya. So far, so good. Now, in a code, gayahin natin to, in a code here, we have to declare the following variable. So in my case, I would like to declare a LED blue. Tapos nilagay ko siya sa pin number 6. We have here the button, which is nakalagay siya sa sa pin number 7. And you have here the button status. This will only produce an output of 0 and 1 lang. So inside the void setup, here we will be placing the pin mode of the LED blue. In this case, the LED blue is actually output. Yan. And the pin mode for the button, which is an input. Now, madali lang yan kasi ang gagawin lang natin dito sa may mismong void loop natin is for us to simply get the value of our digital read ni button. Alam naman natin na ang ipoproduce ni digital read is 0 and 1 lang. Tama? So, sa 0 and 1, mag-i-store yan dito kay button status. Yan. Now, if the button status is actually high, ibig sabihin na pindot, yan. Gawin natin si LED blue, high, tapos kay digital write, LED blue, low. So, nag-alternate lang siya, no? Pwede tayong maglagay dito ng like delay, pero kahit hindi na. Diba? Else, mag-off lang si digital write natin. Yan, mag-off lang siya. So kapag i-compile natin yan, using this schematics, it will now look something like this. Once you click on the button here, yan, umiilaw na, di ba? So nakikita na natin na working. yung ilaw natin. Try ko ang babaan yung value nito. Yung resistance ko dito kasi sa may Arduino kit ko, magulo eh. Ayun. Diba? Nag-on off lang siya. So, kapag pinindot ko ng matagal, nag-on siya ng ganyan. Now, let's try to do that using our Arduino kit. Tingnan natin kung makikisama to ngayon, no? Ayan. Positive, negative, ito. So, we have here the push button. Yung mas maayos nga ang gawin ko. Baka hindi ko lang naikabit eh. Ayan. Ito. Kabit ko yan dito banda. Pero, I suggest na ang gawin muna natin is actually LED. Let's try to check if yung LED natin will work properly, di ba? So, si negative, lagay natin to kay si negative, ilagay natin kay ground. Asan yung aking mga pin dito? Ito. Tapos lagay natin siya kay number 6. Dapat makita muna natin kung gagana si LED natin, no? Ito dito. LED number 6. Yan. So, kung meron tayo dito output na ganyan, nakadepende kasi yan kay no? Nakadepende yan kay LED natin kung paano siya mag-on and off. Tingnan muna natin. Tanggalin ko muna to. Tanggalin ko muna tong mga to. Yan. Kailangan mapagana muna natin si LED natin. Pailaw natin. Umiilaw naman sa akin. Teka pa. Pero dapat palitan natin ang palitan natin ang LED. Luma na rin kasi itong kit ko eh. Yun, may ilaw sa akin. Hindi yung makita, no? May ilaw sa akin, masyado lang mahina. So, meron tayo nito. Tapos, lagay natin ito kay yun, no? Pero mahina lang talaga yun, no? Mahina lang talaga tong ko. Hindi ko rin alam kung bakit eh. Have here the negative. Have here the positive. Nag-abnormal na naman. Ayan. Get the idea. Basta kung mayroon na kayong kit na mas maayos, medyo luma na rin kasi itong kit ko. I think kailangan bumili ng medyo bago-bago, no? Okay. Basta pagka gumana yan dito sa simulation natin, working yan ng maayos sa Arduino kit natin ng mas maayos. Okay? So, punta tayo dito. No? So, ang target natin dito is mapagana natin ang tatlo. So, in this case, yan, meron tayong tatlong LED switches. 1, 2, 3. So, pagka pinindot ko ito yung isang beses, mag-on si red. Pag pinindot ko ulit ang pangalang beses, mag-on tong pangalawa. Pag pinindot ko ng pangatlong beses, pupunta dito. So, I suggest na yung code ninyo will actually determine or will have a variable that will simply get the state. Diba? So, para meron kang counter. Kapag pinindot mo ng isang beses, counter 1. Pag pinindot mo ng pangalawang beses na, counter 2. Pag pinindot mo ng pangatlong beses, counter 3 na yon. So, kapag yung counter na lumabas, if the counter is actually equal to 1, yan, imbis na yung button status mo equals to 1, Yan. If the counter is equal to 1, therefore ang mag-on lang is red, LED red. If the counter is 2, LED yellow, whatever kung ano yung nilagay nyo dyan. Ba? That is lesson 14, the push button switches. Any questions so far before we proceed? Ay, wala naman, no? Okay, number 15 tayo. Potentiometer. Ang potentiometer kasi, let's try to, before we proceed to our discussion, this is actually the target outcomes. We will be identifying the correct connection of a switch, and we will be demonstrating the proper wiring and connecting the circuit to the switch. Now, let's try to decode the following sentences here using the clues given below. So, potentiometer is an instrument that can divide the voltage. Yan, divide the voltage. It is a 3-terminal resistor with sliding or rotating contact that forms an adjustable voltage divider. Let me show you how or what a potentiometer looks like in the Arduino. Meron pa ba ako dito? No? Tingnan ko ha. Para siyang knob. Ayun, meron nga. Para siyang knob, no? Ganyan, potentiometer. Naiikot yan. Pwede siyang maikot. Now, a potentiometer, again, is a 3-terminal resistor with sliding or rotating contact that forms an adjustable voltage divider. Now, potentiometer electronic symbol looks something like this. It is essentially a voltage divider used for measuring electrical potential voltage. The component is an implementation of the same principle. Hence, its name. Potentiometers are commonly used to control electrical devices such as the volume controls on audio equipments. Now, ano nga ba yung mga gamit ng potentiometer natin? Number 1 is for the rheostat. Yan, to use the potentiometer as a rheostat, only 2 pins are used. One outside pin and the center pin. Number 2 is, of course, the potentiometer can be used as voltage dividers. And to use a potentiometer as a voltage divider, all of the 3 pins should be connected. Parang ito, yun yung pinakagagamitin natin kasi ito, yung potentiometer na to. Naiikot yan. Okay? Naiikot yan. One of the outer pins is connected to the GND, the other to VCC, and the middle pin is the voltage output. Now, the voltage divider is used to turn a large voltage into a smaller one. So, ganyan yan. So, we have here the rotary as a type of, the most common of variable resistors or potentiometers. Yun yung gagamitin natin. Yung linear potentiometer naman is another type of potentiometer. It produces a resistance output that varies according to the displacement or position of a slider or wiper. And now, let's try to ask this question. How does potentiometer works on a television? Sa isang TV. Paano nga ba nag-work yan, no? How about on robots? How does it actually work in TV? Basically, potentiometer simply divides the amount of voltage in a circuit. Now, in television, it is used for dividing the voltage of the circuit for volume control. Yung knob natin, the volume knob. Tone control, and the linearity control. And in terms of the robots, the potentiometer is being used to control the electrical device such as the audio control na rin. So, dito yan, no? Now, this is an example of a very simple potentiometer. Ito yung nakikita natin sa mga volume knob natin. For example, sa mga electric guitars natin, di ba? Now, the push-on knob, yan, yung parang ito, naiikot yan. Di ba? So, naiikot yan. We also have here the knob with the set screw. Ito yung mga nakikita natin sa mga amplifiers natin din eh. Yan. Di ba? Now, let's try to proceed here with number 16, the working project with potentiometer. So we have here the microcontroller, the breadboard, the LED, the resistor, the potentiometer. Now, when using a potentiometer, I want you to be very familiar that the connections are made to both ends as well as the wiper as shown. The position of the wiper then provides an appropriate output signal, pin number 2, which will vary between the voltage level applied to one end of the resistance track, pin 1, and at the other, which is the pin number 3. Okay? Now, tingnan natin ito. Itong napaka-basic lang na schematics na 'to, di ba? So, pwede natin 'tong gawin sa may ano natin, let's try to create here a new circuit. Let's try to recreate this wiring. Okay? We have here the breadboard. Madali lang namang intindihin ng code ni potentiometer. We have here the breadboard, we have here the Arduino Uno. Oops. Ang itsura ni potentiometer dito, tara hanapin natin, potentiometer. Ito. It looks something like this. So, we have here the potentiometer, we have terminal 1, the wiper, and the terminal 2. Ito. So, andito yan. Ganyan ang itsura niyan. So, the terminal 1 here will be placed in the ground. Yan, nandiyan siya kay ground. Tapos, si terminal number 2 natin, mapupunta yan kay analog 0. This time, hindi siya digital. Analog na po siya. Yan, so analog 0. Punta natin yan dito. And let's change the color to something like blue. And the third pin, this one, will now be placed directly to the 5 volts. Yung 5 volts natin dito. Diba? We have here the 5 volts. Ayan. So, kapag gagawin natin yung code, the code is very simple ito. The code is here, we will be, declaring a variable, varpin. This time nakalagay siya kay A0. And of course, yung value ni pin natin or yung value ni potentiometer natin. Now, for the setup, of course, meron tayo ditong 9600. Nagsasabi na magpiprint tayo ng something sa serial monitor natin. And for the print line, and so, ganyan ko lang siya muna. Yung establish, something like that, di ba? Now, for the void loop method, we have here the serial.print. Print natin ngayon si value ni potentiometer every time na iniikot natin siya. We have here the potentiometer value. Yan. Plus, this time hindi siya digital read. Kumbaga, analog read naman na siya. Yan. Analog read. And whatever the value na nakukuha niya kay analog. Okay? Tapos print natin siya kay val naman. Let's simply copy and paste the code dito. Ayan. Tignan natin. Ako kasi confident ako pag gumana dito sa Tinkercad, pagka sa mismong Arduino na, gagana na yan. Pero yun nga lang, kapag maayos yung Arduino mo, ako kasi meron nagdolo ko yung Arduino ko. Okay, tignan natin. Let's open our serial monitor. The initial value of our potentiometer is 0. Pero kapag pinapalaki natin yan, nagsi-0 pa rin. So, bakit ganon? Tignan natin kung bakit. Uy, ayun, nagloko na siya. Nagbaliw-baliw na, no? Ulitin natin yan, syempre. Nagloloko lang yan. Kaya ganyan. Potentiometer value. May nakalimutan ako dito. Ito. Val is equal to analog read. Varpin natin kay A0. Ayan. So, ito yung nakalimutan ko palang code. Tayo dito. Ayan. So, start natin yung simulation. So, potentiometer value is 0 initially. Let's try to adjust. Ayun. Diba? So, kapag tinodo natin, 1023. So, the value is the value range is actually from 0 up to 1023 or 1010. Kumbaga, from 1 to 1024 yan. Nag-start lang kasi tayo sa 0. Ayan, no? So, we can actually change the volume knob or volume control kapag ka meron na tayong lalagay dito. Okay, i-challenge ulit natin. Tignan natin kung gagana yan sa Arduino natin. Hopefully, no? Tignan natin. Baka ang problema lang is Ito, so, potentiometer looks something like this. The good thing about this one, kahit hindi natin siya idiretso sa breadboard. In my case, gagamit tayo ng male to female adapters. Ito. We have here the male to female adapters. So, we have 3. Ayan. Male and female, ibig sabihin, female ito, tapos yung dulo is male, di ba? Ganyan. So, we have, of course, yung terminal 1 natin, na ikakabit natin to kay ground. Sana gumana to kasi masyado kong matagal na to eh. Ayoko mabit. Ayan. Kay ground. Kay A0 yung gitna. Tapos ito kay 5 volts. Tama, no? Ayan, kapit kong ganyan. This one will be placed sa 5 volts. Ayan. Yung nasa gitna is sa may A0 natin. Tapos, itong pinakadulo, lalagay natin siya kay GND, kay ground. Ayan. Ano lang. Tignan natin kung gagana ba yung code natin o yung program natin, no? Ayan, nagko-compile yung sketch. Uploading. Done uploading. We'll see. Gumana dito kay Tinkercad, no? Pero tingnan natin. Kung ito hindi pa gumana, ayun, ibig sabihin, ayun, na-adjust ko into 0. Ayun, gumagana naman siya. Ina-adjust ko na eh. Ayan, dito yung value niya. Ayan, so gumagana naman. Problema yata is yung breadboard sa akin. Diba? So that is what we call the potentiometer. Saan natin to pwedeng i-apply? Pwede kasi tayong gumawa ng project kung saan mag-a-adjust yung LED brightness mo gamit si potentiometer mo. So possible na mangyari yon. Yan, gumagana nga. Na-move ko yung value. And so pagka ganyan. Diba? Goods. Okay, so this is actually your second major problem here. Create a circuit that would control the brightness of an LED light using a potentiometer. Print the value of brightness in a serial monitor. Madali lang yan actually. Okay? Napakadaling gawin yan. Pero pakita ko na lang sa inyo kung ano ang magiging itsura niyan para hindi na kayo mahirap. Ang code lang yung parang pinakagagawin nyo dito. Teka lang ha. Nasaan ba yun? Push button. Ito. Diba? So, initially, naka-0 yan. Pero kapag kaya inaano ko yun, ganyan. Ayan. So, nag-off. Nag-on. So, kapag ka medyo nandito, nag-on off siya. Okay, I will not show you the code because this is actually your problem here. All right, next. Delete ko na to. Delete ko na rin to. Let's proceed here with our next problem, which is, or lesson, which is the buzzer. Ang buzzer naman, Our target here is actually for us to create or define what a buzzer is, and we will be differentiating what we call the active and passive buzzers. Now, for the active and passive buzzers, papakita ko sa inyo kung ano ang difference nila later on. Pero basically, yan, para mas makita nyo, dalawang klaseng buzzer yan. Mukha lang siyang magkamuka, pero in person, magkaiba yan. Mas mahaba kasi yung isa. Hindi ba kita, no? Ayan. Mas mahaba yung pins nung isa. Now, let's talk about that. A buzzer or a beeper is an audio signaling device which may be mechanical, electromechanical, or piezoelectric. Now, the piezo for short. Normally, the use of buzzers include alarm devices, timers, and confirmation of user input, such as mouse click or keystrokes, and even melody tones. We have two kinds of buzzers. We have an active buzzer that will generate a tone using an internal oscillator. Okay? So, all that is needed is a DC voltage. Nahulog yung buzzer ko. Wait lang. Yun na nga, nahulog naman. Pati yung Arduino ko. Sorry for that. Okay. Passive buzzers, on the other hand naman, requires an additional or an AC signal to make a sound. It is like an electromagnetic speaker where a changing input signal produces a sound rather than producing a tone automatically. Passive buzzers do not differentiate positive and negative polarity while active buzzers do. So, ganyan ang itsura nila. Yung sa Arduino kasi natin, halos hindi natin ma-differentiate yung pinaka-difference nila. Pero basically, pagka nakikita nyo na yan, pag in person nyo na yan, there is a big difference between them. Ako kasi tinanggal ko lang kasi yung sticker dito. Pero yung isa, pag may sticker kasi, ibig sabihin active buzzer. I think meron akong spare active buzzer here. Let me look kung meron talaga akong extra na active buzzers. Yeah, I think meron. So, nandito siya. Yun, ito. Meron nga. Ito siya. Yan yung may sticker. Ganyan. So, let's try to create a diagram here that shows the similarities and difference between the two types of buzzers. Of course, there is a difference between the two of them and at the same time, a similarity. Tingnan natin tong Venn diagram na ginawa ko. An active buzzer will generate a tone. Okay? A passive buzzer requires an AC signal to make a sound. Passive buzzers do not differentiate positive and negative polarity, while active buzzers differentiate the positive and negative polarity. Although, both of them are audio signaling device. Ano ibig sabihin? They can produce sounds. Okay. So, let's try to cite some devices that has a buzzer aside from the fire alarm, di ba? Ano nga ba yung mga device na may buzzer aside sa fire alarm na nakikita natin? Marami, di ba? Napakadami nating pwedeng ibigay na example na merong buzzer. So, for example, yung sa mga game show, di ba? Kapag pinindot nila, nagkikreate ng buzzer. Pero the most common is actually the fire alarm. Kasi, di ba, kapag may emergency situations. Meron pa yung isa kung saan kapag for example, may dumaan na magnanakaw yung mga system, the burglar system, tapos mag-a-alarm. Di ba? That alone is a buzzer. Ganon din sa personal, yung, halimbawa, pag nasa mall kayo, di ba? Yung, kapag meron kayong ninakaw na pagkain or damit or something, tapos may tumutunog. Di ba? Those are some examples of buzzer in the real world scenario. Now, when do you use to signal, or what do you use to signal the user in a form of beep? In the Arduino, that is what we call piezo buzzer. What type of buzzer that uses a DC voltage? Ano nga ba ang DC voltage natin? That is an active buzzer. Kapag AC voltage, that is passive buzzer. Give an example of buzzer, that is fire alarm. Now, let's try to create, okay, lesson number 18 na tayo, working with different buzzers. Let's try to create a schematics later on that uses buzzer. Now, let's try to guess the buzz, okay? Or, let's decode the following terms here. Ito. So TOY minus Y is to plus NEAR, near minus AR. This is tone. Tone simply refers to the sound produced by a buzzer. This one is frequency. All right. This one is frequency. This is actually a cycle of tone. This is minus ULL P internet. This is pin, di ba? Pin is configured as input and output. Okay, let me explain the different code components of a buzzer. We have here, although hindi naman natin siya totally magagamit for now, pero pakita ko pa rin sa inyo. The tone function here with the pin kung saan siya nakalagay and the frequency. You can actually make a sound, okay, with a buzzer using the function tone. Ito. In order to use it, you only need to tell the pin to which the buzzer is connected and which frequency in hertz you want. For example, tone 5, 4000 produces a frequency of 4 kilohertz on the pin D5 on Arduino. No tone pin function. Okay, ito yung magpapatigil nung pin sound natin. We must use another function called no tone. Now, hindi na yung video tutorial na yan. Now, let's try to see the functions here, okay, that can be used in programming Arduino buzzer around the picture. This is an RGB light. Okay, hindi pa natin totally gagawin. So we have here a no tone pin. Okay, we have here the no tone pin that will simply turn off the tone na pinoproduce niya from the pin number 5 with a frequency of 4. And so no tone 5 is actually yan, no tone 5 in this one. Tignan natin itong active buzzer alarm sound natin. Itong active buzzer alarm sound natin, this is a very, very simple. Okay? Napaka simple lang itong gawin. Try natin siyang gawin dito sa may Tinkercad natin. This will simply produce a buzz sound in Arduino. And so, gayahin lang natin siya with the following code. Kung napansin nyo, para lang din kayo nagkikreate ng LED. Para lang din kayo nagkikreate ng LED. So, we have here the piezo or the buzzer. Ayan. Piezo. Although, iba ang itsura na ito, no? All ko nga ito. Para magamit natin lahat. Hanapin natin yung output natin ng buzzer. Ito. Ito lang talaga. We have here the integrated circuits, the IC. Oh, wala na yung ganito eh. Dapat meron to eh. Okay. Let's see. Ayan. This is only positive and negative, as you can see here. So we have here the positive and the negative. Of course, the negative, nandito siya kay ground. Si positive nandito kay 13. As simple as that. Let's try to program this one. Dito na lang natin siya i-code para mas makita natin, no? And we have here the int buzzer. That is 13. With a pin mode, buzzer, tapos output yan. Output yan, no? Hindi na siya input. Tapos, okay, loop natin para ka lang nag-on and nag-off ng LED. You have here the buzzer. You have here high. Tapos you have here buzzer low. With, of course, a delay in between, like around 500 milliseconds. Nga, tingnan natin yan dito. Hindi ko pa na-try dito sa Tinkercad yan. Pero yan, basically tumutunog, no? Ayan, no? Naririnig ba on your end? Pero sa akin tumutunog siya. Yeah, medyo weird lang yung tunog niya. Okay, tingnan natin yan dito sa may Arduino natin. Nakakairita yung tunog. Let's try to create the buzzer sound in Arduino. Gawin lang natin ito. Positive and negative lang siya, no? Napaka-easy. Makikita nyo naman dito sa may Arduino ninyo kung alin ang positive kasi may magpapakita na plus sign. Kasi magpapakita rin ng negative sign. So, pwede ko yata siyang idiretso dito sa may GND natin. Sige, tignan ko kung pwedeng idiretso muna, no? So, 11. Sa 11 ko siya nilagay. Ayan, try natin. Ayan. Sa 11 tapos ground. Ayun. Naririnig nyo ba? Ayan, di ba? So, tumutunog na siya. So, pwede siyang idiretso dito. Or, kung gusto nyo, kuha kayo ulit na male to female. Yung GND, itong ground natin, kabit natin to kay ground. Tapos yung positive natin, kabit natin kay 11 ulit. So, napakita ko sa inyo para mas ano natin. So, you have here the number 11. And this is 11. This is ground. 11, no? Yan. Ay, nang tumunog. Ay, baliktad pala kasi. Ito nga yung problema. Ito yata, yung mga pins ko yata ang problema talaga. Hindi yung board. Kasi, gumagana naman yung board. Okay. Try natin itong ilagay na ngayon sa breadboard. Positive and negative. So, positive. Si positive ay nakay number 11. Si negative ay nakay ground. Yun. Mas gumana siya dito. Di ba? That's a good thing about about that one. So, pwede, maingay lang, no? Medyo maingay. Yan. Now, let me show you another example in which, hindi to yung problem nyo pero gawa tayo dito. Punta tayo dito. Create and program a circuit that would play a happy birthday melody while 3 LED lights are blinking alternately. Now, let me show you here an example in which kung saan pwedeng gumana or pwede tayong mag-produce ng melody tone. Is that even possible sa Arduino natin? Yes po. It is really possible for us to produce, okay, or play a melody sound. So gamitin natin to. So this is in palta na lang siguro natin tong value nito. Gawin natin. This is in GND. This is ground. Palta natin to into black. Okay. So gawa tayo ngayon ng program in which magpi-play ng melody. If you have a background to music, you can actually play any melody. Kahit nga yung Rickroll, pwede nyo gawin dito. So, i-program natin. Program natin yan dito kung saan pwede tayong mag-produce ng melody. Okay? So, we have here the void setup and the void loop. Gawa na ng tao itong panibago. Okay. Now, first of all, we will be defining the following notes na gagamitin natin. This is actually a very basic note na i-start simulation ko lang, no? Yan. Naririnig nyo, no? Yan. Yun yung susubukan nating i-recreate using Arduino. Okay. Now, first of all, we will be defining the following. Instead na nagde-declare tayo ng variable, nagde-define na ngayon tayo ng mga variable. Okay. So, first of all, we will be defining the following notes. We have here the C note with a value of 262. Actually, a simple Google search will show you Arduino sound, ano yan? Audio tone frequency. Meron kasi yung mga tone reference natin dito. Tong hindi ang tone melody eh. Meron yung table kung saan makakakuha tayo or makikita natin yung mga tone frequency natin. Itong mga to. Ayun yung tone library. Tone library. Ito, di ba? So we have here the following tone library. Mga to, i-define natin isa-isa. Pero, you can actually play around with the following tones kung gusto nyo. Yan ako lang. Frequency notes. Ito. Hindi. Dito pala sa image yon. Makikita kasi natin dito, yun, yung mga frequency notes natin. Ayan, so, these are the following frequency notes. Yan. Diba? So, pag C, 261 and so on and so forth. So, try natin yung gawin dito. Okay, so 262, okay lang yan, 261, magkakatabi lang siya. I-define natin si G3 naman. Basically, nilalagay ko yung frequency number dito. So, pwede nyo kasing, pwede kayo mag-search dito sa internet ng mga frequency number natin. So, makikita nyo kung ano yung mga saktong, natin. Parang ito, di ba? Yung do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do natin. So, pag G3, do, re, mi. Do, re, mi. Yan, so nandito na siya. Sol pala siya. Sol, 196 G3. So, nandito. So, G3. Tan, 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 tan. Pareho. Tan, 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 tan. 5. So, gawa tayo ng 5. G3, this is A3. The frequency of A3 is 220. B3 naman, 247. So, ang tasks ninyo dito, or ang challenge sa inyo dito is, how are you going to compose the melody of Happy Birthday? Happy birthday to you. Diba? Madali lang din naman siya. Napakadali lang yun. 262, C4, G3, A3, B3, C4. Alright, so, we were able to define the following notes here. Punta ngayon tayo, bago kayo set up, ilagay natin siya kay array. So, int melody is equal to the following array. Yan. So, si array natin, ipi-play lang natin si C4. Ipi-play lang natin si G3. Ipi-play lang natin siya si... At yung pagkakasunod-sunod natin, no? Nung tone natin. A3, note underscore B3. Pagkakasunod-sunod lang nung mismong melody na nung kinakanta. So, B3... note underscore C4. Tan, 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 tan. And C4, G3, G3, C4, G3, G3, A3, G3. Actually, may mga online piano po, no? Para hindi kayo malito. May mga online piano kung gusto nyong magpiano online. Yan, so maglagay tayo ng 0 dito as, as a pause or a rest note, yung tinatawag natin. Tan, 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 tan. Tingnan nga natin yon, online piano keyboard. Virtual keyboard natin. Dito. Yon. This is C4, G is ito. Yon. Yon. Tan, tan. B3. Ayun. So, ganun. Naririnig ba? Hopefully, naririnig, no? No, G3, G3. Ayan. So, kapag happy birthday, mag-start kayo sa C4, di ba? Oo, di ba? Ayun. Tan, tan. Ayun. So, na-define natin yung melody. Now, after defining the melody, punta ngayon tayo kay... Siyempre, nakalimutan natin ito. So, array yan, no? Naki-array yan. I-define ngayon natin si note durations niya. See, note duration, for you to have a better understanding with the note duration, this simply means that we have here the, sulat ko dito, no? We have here 4 as quarter note, okay? 8 as 8 note, 8 note, and etc. So, pag 16, 16, blah, 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 and so on. So, using the int note durations, yan, naka-array yan, i-define lang natin. So, since most of the notes here are like halftone lang naman siya, or quarter note. Ay. Yan. Quarter note lang naman siya eh. So, int note durations, ilagay natin dito as 4, tapos 8 note, 4, 4, 4, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Isa pa. 8. So, naka-array yan, no? 4, 1, 2. Isin ko nga. Ayan. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So, meron tayong note durations. So, kapag happy birthday, halos pare-pareho lang din yan. Same concept. Dito lang sa melody and note duration lang yung pagkakaiba. For the setup, we will simply play this one. Yan, using an int or a for loop. Okay. Sa setup natin yan. Kahit lagay natin yan sa loop kung gusto nyo. Pero dito lang, para once lang siyang nagpe-play. So, dito kay for loop, we have here the variable int this note, for example. We start from the 0. Kumbaga, ipi-play lang natin. Tatawagin lang natin si melody isa-isa. So, this note is less than 8. Tapos, si this note natin, plus plus. Now, we will simply calculate the note duration. Take 1 second divided by the note type. So, ang note type natin dito is 4. Diba? So, int note duration is equal to 1,000, yung 1 second natin, divided by the note durations, isa-isa natin. This note. Yung for loop natin. So, titignan niya isa-isa yung note durations natin dito. I-divide lang yan into 4. Ibig sabihin, per note, yun yung amount ng sound na lumalabas or kung ilang seconds siya lumalabas. Diba? So, this note here. Yan. And we will place here the tone. Ano yung tone natin? The pin is in number 8. Ito na siya. Papasok dito. Pin is in number 8. And this is, we will be placing or we will be playing the melody sound, all of the melody sounds, starting from the this note variable, which actually starts from 0. Basic for loop, di ba? Tapos, with the note duration natin. Yung note duration natin is, yan, yung note durations natin. Mismo. Okay, so far so good, no? Note duration, okay. Now, we will be distinguishing the notes. We will be setting a minimum time between them. Now, the notes duration is actually, plus 30%. Maglalagay tayo dito ng plus 30%. So, we have here the pause between notes. Pwede nyo paglaruan yung mga value dito para mas makita nyo kung paano siya totally nag-work, no? 1.30. So, 30%. And let's create here a delay in between them. Yan. Tapos, no tone 8. Papause natin siya. Delay, pause between notes, no tone 8. Tama ba? And yung loop natin, kahit wala na tayo ilagay. Lagyan natin yan dito. Let's start playing that one. Yan, nagkamali ako dito. The error, primary expression before this one. So, there is an error. Check natin kung saan ako nagkamali. Note C4, G3, Note G3, A3. Tingnan natin. Yun. Working. Ulitin natin. Diba? So, gumana. Gagana kaya yan? Ang question ko sa inyo, gagana kaya yan sa sa personal. I mean sa Arduino mismo. Tignan natin, no? Pero let's see, sir, pwede po ba palitan yung volume? Actually, yes, pwede nyo mapalitan yung volume. Just add a resistor dito dito sa negative. Okay? Sorry, ngayon ko lang nakita yung questions nyo. Maglagay lang kayo ng resistor sa negative para ma-reduce yung volume. Okay, so let's try to create the sound here using using the Arduino. So, gamit tayo dito ng buzzer. So, we have here the buzzer. Gawin din natin to. Siguro ganito na lang ulit. Yung GND, idiretso ko muna dito. So, ito. Tapos kay 11 na pin. Yan. Yan. Initial, di ba yan yung kanina? So, paltang ko yung pin dito, gawin kong 11. Maingay. Yan. Yan yung ino natin, yan yung i-upload natin. Tingnan natin, hopefully gumana, no? Nagko-compile. Yan, nag-upload na yung code natin. Ayun. Narinig ba? Ulitin natin. Kung gusto niyo siyang i-loop, pwede. Lagay niyo lang siya dito sa loop. Ayan. Upload natin ulit. Oh, di ba? So again, use the frequencies. Ilagay natin siya sa loop. Tignan natin kung mag-loop siya. For dito kay loop. Tingnan natin kung mag-work siya. Kung mag-loop talaga siya. Ayun. Nag-loop na siya. Kapag ka happy birthday, syempre mag-iiba yan. Dito nyo gagalawin yan sa melody. Ang cute. There is also a combination project, by the way, guys. Masyado na maingay yan. Meron tayong combination project ngayon na pagka ginamit nyo to, potentiometer, mag-a-adjust yung volume. Okay? So, saka na natin pag-uusapan yun. Mag-a-adjust si volume, mag-a-adjust din si kung ano-ano. Okay? You can actually create a piano sound. Teka ha. Gawa tayo ng example ko dito. Hindi ko ipapakita yung code. Iyan ako lang. Itaas ko na lang dito para makita natin kung paano gumagana si si piano sound natin. Pero yes, it's really possible for us po to create like a button with different piano sounds. So, halimbawa, meron kang 3 different buttons. You can actually recreate that one. Meron akong create dito na 3 buttons. I-pull up ko lang. Pero syempre, hindi ko pwedeng maipakita sa inyo, no? Pull up ko lang para may idea kayo kung paano siya gawin. Ayan. So, we have here 3 different buttons. Ayan. Pwede nyo na, clickable na yung mga button. Tan 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 tan. Kung may 7 buttons kayo, mas maganda. Re-recreate nyo lahat dito. So, ganyan siya. Question so far? Galing ng Arduino, no? Napakadaming pwedeng gawin. Pwede tayong makakreate ng alarm system, by the way, no? Using this one. Pero saka na yun, that will serve as your project. Naman. Again, pag happy birthday, so we have here C. You start from Z. C. 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 4, 3. So C, C, D, C. Yan. F, E. 1, 2, 1, 5, 4, 5, 4. Yan. 5, 4. Possible po ba ang custom sound? What do you mean by custom sound? Like, mag-upload ka ng separate sound? Sa buzzer po, hindi po. Itong buzzer, kaya niya lang i-produce sa ngayon is buzzer. Pero, meron kasi tayong specialized buzzer kung saan pwede kang mag-upload ng tone na sarili. Like, custom sound na gusto mong ilagay mismo. Like, meron yung speaker. Meron yung speaker kasi, hindi ko lang mahanap dito. Pero meron yung speaker sa Arduino na pwede kang ngayong maglagay ng sarili. Okay? So, possible po yun. Kung wala kayong magawa, pwede nyong i-recreate si Rickroll ninyo. Napakadami rin kasing kagandahan nito, napakadami rin kasing resources sa internet na alam mo yun, lalo kung hindi naman kayo musically inclined, pwede nyo makreate si Rickroll. Okay, now this is an example here, another sample project that would represent a game show buzzer. Once button is pushed, a buzzer would sound. So, ganito siya. Try natin naman tong gawin, no? With this time, meron naman siyang push button together with, of course, an LED. Yan. Meron siyang LED. Tapos, meron din siyang piezo. Gayahin lang natin to. Tingnan natin. So, pwede nyo itong i-screenshot ha on your end para hindi kayo mahirapan. Medyo nakakalito lang tong tignan. Sundan. Sige, screenshot nyo na lang. Baka matagalan akong gawin to pag ako. So, nakakabit si buzzer natin kay number 9. Number 9 ba to? Kay number 9. Nakakabit siya kay number 9. Si LED natin nakakabit kay number 6. Si buzzer natin nakakabit kay number 7. So, we have 3 different components here. Okay. So, si piezo alarm natin or si buzzer natin, yung negative niya yung negative niya nandito kay negative. Siya yung magsisilbing ground natin. Kay LED, ganun din. Yung negative niya kay negative. Siya rin yung nagsilbing ground natin, padiretso dito. Tapos kay buzzer naman, kay button, ganun din. So, we have here the negative that will also serve as the negative. So, here is the code for us to do that. We have to declare the following. We have buzzer pin, which is 9, button pin, which is 7, LED pin, which is 6, and this one, itong constant integer tone frequency, this is actually the tone value na pinoproduce niya. Okay, in this case, 523 ang tone value na pinoproduce niya, 523 kilohertz. So, hindi ko sure kung alin siya dito. Tignan lang natin siguro ulit yung frequency notes natin, no? So, kung 523 yan, medyo mataas, matining siya. Okay, yan. Medyo matining yung value. So, that will be around C5. So, sa C5 na siya. Ibig sabihin, kapag ka nasa C5 na siya, mataas na C. C4 ito C4 itong gitna. Dito siya. So, ito yung ipoproduce na buzzing sound niya. 523. Now, for the setup, napakadali, di ba? Except for the button. The button actually is an input. Yan. Button input. Now, for the loop, titignan mo ulit si button state niya, i-read mo lang siya. This will simply produce 0 and 1 value. Di ba? Button state here is equal to low. If the button state is equal to low, and the digital write LED pin will turn on together with the buzzer. Otherwise, they will turn off. So, kapag pinipindot mo lang pala siya, doon nag-on and off yung buzzer natin. Questions so far before we proceed with our last part of our discussion? Questions? Wala naman. Okay. So, I want you to listen carefully dito sa part ng discussion na to because this is one of the most confusing parts ng Arduino natin. This is what we call the 7-segment display. Now, the 7-segment display here, our target is for us to identify the 7 circuits, the circuit diagram of a 7-segment display, and we'll be explaining the use of a 7-segment display. Ito. it looks something like this. 7-segment display looks something like that. In the sense ng Arduino, ganyan ang itsura niyan. Ito siya. So that's only the single 7-segment display. In the latter part of our discussion, we have here the 4-pin or the 4 7-segment display. Yan. And yes po, if ngayon pa lang naiisip nyo na ginagamit siya para sa mga time bomb as countdown, yes, you are correct. Yun po yung talagang pinaka-purpose niya as countdown. Now, the SSD or the 7-segment display, it's actually a form of electronic display device for displaying decimal numerals that is an alternative to the more complex dot matrix display. So, tandaan po natin kung paano ang itsura or ano ang itsura ng letters ni 7-segment display. So, we have here A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So, lagi siyang pa-clockwise ang ikot niyan. So, starting from the top, that's A. Pa-clockwise tayo, B, C, D, E, F, and G. So, kung ilalabas ninyo yung 7-segment display nyo, ayan, makikita nyo sa likod kasi na may mga pins siya associated with that one. So, ibig sabihin, this pin here is actually A, and B, C, D, and until letter H. So, i-pull up natin si 7-segment display natin dito. 7-segment decoder yun eh. Ito. Diba? So, si 7-segment display, ayan, nakalagay na rin dito kay 7-segment display kung nasaan dyan si A, B, C, D, and so on. Pero in Arduino kasi talagang iba. Okay? Iba ang itsura niyan. Ganyan, oh. May mga pins yan na susundan natin. Now, normally, the use of segment includes scoreboards or displays of a single digital number or even a character. A 7-segment display is composed of course, light-emitting diodes, LED, that are small and comes in various colors. So, we have two types of segment. We have here the common cathode and we have the common anode. So, tingnan natin yung difference nila, no? So, the common cathode here, we have the ground dito. And we have here the VCC for the common anode. So, magkabaliktad lang sila. Okay, yung cathode and anode niyan. In Arduino, hindi naman siya totally baliktad. Pero as is na kasi siya sa Arduino. Now, I want you to be very familiar with this one. The position of light shows by 7-segment display are represented by letters. In Arduino code, LED lights on expressed by a number 0, while LED lights off are expressed by a number 1. Again, on means 0 in Arduino, off means 1. So, for example, ito. Kung titignan natin ito maigi, 0000001, okay, will now display 0. Bakit? Again, 0 po ang on. So, mag-start ka dito kay A. This is on. B on. C on. D on. E on. F is on. And G is off. So, ibig sabihin, wala si letter G dito. So, na-imagine nyo ba? That is 0. Tignan natin itong number 2. Try natin itong i-decode kung anong number ang magpapakita dito. Tingnan nga. Yung mga nasa chat box. Ano ang number na magpapakita with the schematics? The 0000100 binary. 9. Tingnan nga natin kung 9 talaga, no? So, A is 0. Means this is on. This is on. C is on. D is on. E is off. Take note, wala tong E, no? Na-imagine nyo na. F is on. G is on. So, therefore, yes, that's correct po, Miss Hannah and Craig. Number 9 po. Diba? Na-imagine nyo ba? Okay, number 3. Tingnan natin. Ano ang number 3? Ano kayang number ang napoproduce ni number 3? 1001111. 1, naka-off ito. Naka-on ito. Dalawa lang ang naka-on, B and C. Ano number kaya ito? This is number 1. B and C ang naka-on eh. Yan, no? B and C ang naka-on. That's correct. Tama, Craig. 1 po. Number 4. Ang naka-on is si BC, B and C, Tapos C, G, and F. So, ang naka-on lang, B, C, F, G. Andito na tayo kay number 4. What number is number 4? Ano ang napoproduce yung sound? Yes, that's correct, Mr. Jello, Hans, and Mark, Adam. The number is 4. So, ang naka-on kasi is F, G, B, C. Nagagets na natin, no? Number 5. Let's check number 5. Ang naka-on dito is A, B, C. Tapos, A, B, C, D, E, F. F, ito. Yes. The correct answer, ang naka-off lang dito is F and C. Therefore, the correct answer is number 2. Okay, number 2. Tama, Craig. Okay, number 6. Ito number 6. Ang naka-on dito lahat except for B. Naka-off ang B. So what number is this? This is 6. That's correct. Craig and Lansley Takderas. Diba? Nagets naman natin, no? Napakadali naman siyang intindihin. So later on, kapag i-code natin to, dapat kabisado natin or at least aware tayo kung paano gumagana ang zeros and ones natin. No? So let's try to elaborate cite some applications of 7-segment display that we encounter in our routine. Aside from digital clocks, diba? We have the digital calculators. Meron din tayo nung mga, alam niyo yung nasa cashier station, yung mga nagdi-display doon sa cashier. Diba? Parang ganun. Now, if we will try to give the following pin address to activate the segment, madali lang din naman to. All you have to do is to simply check this one here. I-identify nyo kung ano yung letters. Pero hindi naman to totally activity para sa inyo. Pero for us to show this one, ito. Punta tayo dito sa may example natin. For example, 8. Ano yung mga letters na naka-activate dito pag letter 8, pag number 8? So we have A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Diba? Pag number 5, ano ang mga naka-activate dito? A, C, A, B, C. D pala, di ba? D. Tapos ito, wala ito. Hindi, tama. 5. Ito, meron pala to. So, A, B, C. We have A, C, D, F, and G. So, something like that. Pag 3, ito naman ang naka-open. Pag 3, di ba? Ito lang. Ang naka-off, itong dalawa. So, that is, yan. So, bahala na. Alam na natin yan. Basic, alam na natin yan. No. Punta tayo ngayon dito sa let's try to work on with the 7-segment display. This is actually very, very confusing, especially the schematics, the diagram of the 7-segment display. So, aware na tayo kung paano natin siya basahin. Now, let's try to create here a reference table first. Diba? So, kapag ka-digit number 1 pala, pag digit number 0 pala ang ipiprint natin, itong lahat ng to, naka-on lahat except for letter G. Ito. Diba? Pagka digit number 1, ang naka-on is ito. Diba? Naka-on si B and C. Naka-off ang lahat. Ito pala, naka-on. Itong dalawang to, B and C. Pag number 2, this one. So, kindly take a screenshot of this table here na ginawa natin para mas maintindihan natin. This is actually the summary of our 7-segment display table. Okay. So, ayan. Let's also take a screenshot of this one. Screenshot nyo rin ito para mas makita ninyo kung ano yung mga naka-on and naka-off sa 7-segment display. Now, let's create here the basic, okay? Gawin natin tong napaka-basic na 7-segment display natin. Ito na lang. Let's create this one. Nandito, prepare ko na rin yung code kasi niyan para mahaba-haba yung code eh. Blurred sa'yo? Oo nga eh. Sorry ha. Iano natin yan. Di ba naman to? Naka-record naman ulit tayo dito. So, ayan. We have here the 7-segment display. Kabit natin yan dito kay breadboard natin. We have here the DP. Okay, we have here the Arduino. So, isa-isahin natin. Si A, nakakabit kay number 2. Ito, si A, nakakabit kay number 2. So, kabit natin yan dito. Okay, goods. Si A, nakakabit kay number 2. Si 3, nakakabit yan kay letter B. Ito. Si 3, nakakabit kay letter B. Ito, 3 ito 3. I-recreate lang natin yan. Ayan. Si 4, nakakabit kay letter C. Ito yung letter C natin, no? Nakakabit siya kay number 4. Yan. Si number 5, kanino siya nakakabit? Base here sa diagram. Nakakabit yan kay letter E. So we have here letter E. A, B, C, D. Kay 5, nakakabit yan kay... Hindi, letter D pala, sorry. Ito. So, number 5, kabit natin yan kay... Dito. Number 6, nakakabit yan kay letter E. Be very careful po ha when doing this one. So, number 6, nakakabit yan dito. Number 7, nakakabit si number 7 kay... Teka, ano ko muna, no? Review muna natin ulit. Si A, nakakabit kay 2. Si B, palitan natin ng color para mas makita natin. Si B, nakakabit kay 3. Si C, ito, nakakabit kay... Ayan, dito lang yan. Palitan ko yung kulay nito para hindi tayo malito kasi napaka-importante na color-coded ito. Yellow. Si number 5, nakakabit kay D. Ayan. Si number 6, nakakabit kay letter E. Okay. So far, so good. Si number 7, kanino natin kakabit si number 7? Naki-ano na tayo, no? So this is E. DE na kay F na tayo. So this one, this is F. Kabit natin ito kay 7. Hopefully, sinusundan nyo to, no? This will actually serve as the initial ng 7 segment display natin. Pag gagawin ko kasi to sa Arduino, medyo matatagalan tayo. So this is 7. The number 8 is G. Kay G natin ikakabit. Si ito. Let's place here a color. Ayan, so far, so good. Okay, meron pa tayong natitira dito, yung common, si DP, saka si common. Now, for the common, this is actually your 5 volts. Okay? Yung common natin. So, si common, pwede natin siyang ilagay dito. Iikot natin lang yan dito kay 5 volts. Pwede natin siyang ilagay diyan. So, lagyan natin as black. Diba? Pwede natin siyang ilagay as black. So, nakabitan na natin to. Si DP kahit hindi na. Now, this one, lagay natin ulit. Maglagay tayo dito ng ground. I mean, the 5 volts. Oo, hindi na tayo naglagay ng ground no? So, lagay natin to kay resistor. Lagyan natin ng resistor. Ito, lagay tayo ng resistor dito. Rotate natin. Oops, usog lang natin ng konti para mas maganda. Ayan, dito. And this one will be placed somewhere sa 5 volts natin. Ayan, kay 5 volts. Okay, so far so good. Yung dots dito kahit wag na natin lagyan to. Actually, optional to eh. Itong DP na to, yung dots. So, pwede natin siyang ilagay kay 9. Okay, goods. Now, for the code. The code part is actually not really that confusing. Kasi, gawin natin tong code natin. Para mas maintindihan natin si code. Sorry. Yan. Screenshot nyo na, no? Screenshot nyo na. Okay. So, create tayo ng bagong file dito. The very first thing that you have to do when coding this one is, of course, to declare the following variables. So, int A is 2. Diba? Pin B is 3. Int pin C is 4. Importante na tama yung pagkakadeclare nyo ng variable. This is 5. Int pin E is equal to 6. Pin F is equal to 7. Pin G is equal to 8. Hanggang 8 lang, no? Yan. Tapos kay setup natin, si setup kasi natin is simply yan, pin mode, pin A. Capital pala ito. Dapat small. Pin. So, pin mode. For the pin A, of course, that is output. Copy-paste natin siya ng 7 times. 3, 6, 7. Yan. B, C, D, E, F, and G. Okay, so far so good. Yung ating code, no? Ayan. This is simply the setup. Now, for the loop, in order for us to loop this one, we have to consider, number 1, lagay natin dito kung ano yung number na in-open natin. Going back to our sample here, itong si, ano natin, pag kay 0 pala, naka-on lahat except for letter G. Diba? So, naka-on lahat except for letter G. Ibig sabihin, naka-off lahat except kay letter G. Baliktad kasi ang Arduino eh. Yan. So, we have here digital write. We have here the pin A, low. Tapos, i-copy paste lang natin yan ng 7 beses. Pin A, pin B, pin C, pin D, pin E, pin F, pin G. Yan. So, ito lang ang naka-high. Let's place here a delay of 1,000. So, mag-i-start siya from 0. Yan. That's digital write. Pag kay 1 naman, ang naka-on lang kay 1 is si BNC. Ito lang. Si BNC lang. So, i-copy ulit natin ito. Copy natin yan. This is high. This is low. This is high. This is high. High. So, that's number 1. Pag 2, this is low. Low, low, high. Low, low, high, low. So, meron na tayong 0, 1, 2. Sige nga, i-copy muna natin ito. Tingnan natin kung gagana yan dito sa code natin. Let's simulate. Ayun. Nakikita ba? Hopefully, nakikita nyo, no? Pero, sa akin, nakitang-kita yan, no? Nagpapalit-palit siya from 0 to 1 and 2. Binabaan ko yung resistance. Kawawa naman siya. Sasabog daw. Ayan. Para mas kita. 100 ohms lang. 0, 1, 2. Lagay natin si 3. Copy natin si 3. Si 3, everything is low. This is low. Pin E is high. Pin F is high. Pin G is low. And for number 4, Let's also place here number 4. According here, number 4, pin A is high, low, low, high, high, low, low. High, high, low, low. Okay, sige, lagay na natin to. Continue nyo na lang, no? And so, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Kung gusto nyo medyo mas mabilis, just simply change the delay. Yeah, just simply change the delay and everything's gonna be fine kapag ka ano, di ba? Ito kasi 1,000 millisecond meaning 1 second. Ayan. Any questions so far? Now, your activity for 7-segment display is all about create and program a circuit that will show a countdown, this time in descending order. Yan. So, madali lang, no? In descending order naman siya. So, how are you going to make everything in descending order? Siyempre, hindi ko na itutuloy yan. Okay? Any questions so far? Ito, dalawa naman na to, no? Pagka gagawin ko yan dito, medyo matagal pag dito yan. Okay, sige. Kung wala na tayong question, pwede na po tayong umalis. And see you guys next week. Make sure to answer the written work. Okay? The written work and ng lahat. Written work 3, written work number 2, and of course, the performance checks. Number 1 and number 2. Alright, so see you guys next week once again.